There are moments in life when a woman feels an unusual pull in her spirit, a pull that cannot be explained, cannot be dismissed, and cannot be compared to anything she has ever experienced. It is a pull that draws her away from noise, from chaos, from crowds, from the applause of people, and from the comfort of ordinary companionship. From the outside, it looks like isolation. But in reality, it is a divine separation. It is God setting her apart for a purpose far greater than anything the world could ever understand. And if you are listening to this message with a trembling heart, with a quiet ache inside you, unsure why you feel disconnected from people you once loved, unsure why your path seems lonelier than ever before, then hear this truth clearly. You are not being abandoned. You are being chosen. And a chosen woman does not walk with a crowd. A chosen woman walks alone because God has reserved her steps for a destiny that cannot be shared with everyone. There is a sacred mystery in the life of a chosen woman. People see her strength, but they do not understand the battles she faces. They admire her resilience, but they do not comprehend the storms she has survived. They see her standing tall, but they do not know the nights she spent on her knees, speaking to God in whispers that even she could not fully articulate. They see her push forward, but they cannot grasp that every step she takes is guided by a divine hand they cannot see. And so they misinterpret her, they misunderstand her. They label her as a distant, as a strange, as a withdrawn. But she is not withdrawn, she is being guarded. She is not strange, she is being prepared. She is not distant, she is being spiritually insulated for a purpose that demands stillness, clarity, and divine intimacy. A chosen woman walks alone because her journey cannot be diluted by the voices of the world. She carries a calling too heavy for ordinary people to understand. She carries a spiritual weight that requires space, silence, and separation. When God marks a woman for a higher assignment, He begins to rearrange her life. People who once felt close suddenly feel far. Conversations that once felt comforting suddenly feel empty. Environments that once felt familiar suddenly feel suffocating. This is not a sign of loss, it is a sign of elevation. God is not taking people away from you, He is pulling you closer to Him. God is not isolating you, He is unveiling you. God is not withholding relationships. He is cultivating your soul for something far greater than human approval or companionship. Alone is not a punishment. Alone is a classroom. Alone is where God teaches a chosen woman how to hear His guidance without interference. Alone is where He strengthens her identity until she no longer depends on validation. Alone is where He removes counterfeit connections so she can recognize the divine ones. Alone is where He sharpens her spiritual sensitivity. Alone is where He transforms her thoughts. Alone is where He whispers instruction into the deepest parts of her being. And when God begins to teach a woman privately, He will often require her to walk a path that feels solitary, but that solitude is the birthplace of her power. A chosen woman walks alone because she is being shaped, formed, refined. She is learning to stand on the foundation of God alone. She is learning to trust the unseen even when everything visible seems uncertain. She is learning to carry a fire within her that no one else can ignite and no one else can extinguish. God is molding her into someone who cannot be swayed by the opinions of people. God is forging her into someone who will not collapse under pressure. God is establishing her as someone who can be entrusted with influence, assignment, and spiritual wisdom. For this reason, He separates her from the crowd, not to weaken her, but to strengthen her beyond anything she has ever imagined. People may walk away, let them go. A chosen woman does not chase after those who are not aligned with her destiny. She does not cling to those who cannot see her value. She does not hold on to relationships that God is decluttering from her life. Instead, she stands still with quiet faith, knowing that every departure is guided by God, every absence is divinely allowed, and every silent season is preparing her to emerge with authority. Those who cannot handle your process do not deserve your promise. Those who cannot see your growth do not deserve your presence. Those who cannot recognize your worth do not deserve access to your heart. When God calls a woman, He calls her to rise, not to shrink. He calls her to walk forward, not to look back. He calls her to gain spiritual maturity, not to seek comfort in the familiar. And sometimes rising requires losing the crowd. Elevation requires separation. Destiny requires differentiation. You cannot walk with God and walk with everyone else at the same time. You cannot be chosen and still cling to the ordinary. You cannot carry divine purpose and still remain emotionally attached to people who are spiritually stagnant. And so God pulls you away, not to isolate you, but to align you with something greater. A chosen woman walks alone because God does not want noise around her when He is speaking. He does not want distraction around her when He is guiding. He does not want confusion around her when He is clarifying. He does not want competition around her when He is elevating. He wants her undivided attention. He wants her pure devotion. He wants her spiritual readiness. He wants her heart fully tuned to His voice. For what He is about to do in her life requires a foundation that is unshakable. Some of the most powerful transformations in a woman's life happen in the seasons when God removes everything she thought she needed. He removes friendships that drain her. He removes relationships that distract her. He removes environments that limit her. He removes conversations that weaken her. He removes patterns that sabotage her. Every remover feels painful, but every remover is actually a rescue. God is not taking away, He is making room. God is not depriving, He is refining. God is not diminishing, He is restoring her identity piece by piece, layer by layer, until nothing remains in her life that contradicts her calling. A chosen woman walks alone because God is trusting her with personal revelation that not everyone is mature enough to understand. He gives her insights that others would mock. He places visions in her heart that others would doubt. He unfolds dreams that others would belittle. He plants spiritual wisdom in her mind that others would not recognize. And so He hides her, protects her, shields her from premature exposure. You cannot reveal what God is birthing in you to those who lack the spiritual depth to appreciate it. A chosen woman learns to guard her heart, to guard her purpose, to guard her destiny, because she knows not everyone deserves access to sacred things. Sometimes a chosen woman wonders why she feels different from others, why she cannot live the way they live, speak the way they speak, or entertain the things they entertain. It is because she carries a different spirit. She has a divine sensitivity that refuses to be diluted. She has a hunger for spiritual truth that cannot be silenced. She has a yearning for God that cannot be replaced by anything temporary. She has a calling that refuses to let her settle for mediocrity. She carries a divine restlessness that pushes her toward growth, elevation, and transformation. And that restlessness is not a burden, it is a sign that God has His hand on her life. Her steps are not random. Her experiences are not accidental. Her tears are not wasted. Every setback is shaping her. Every disappointment is informing her. Every heartbreak is redirecting her. Every challenge is strengthening her. Every lonely night is preparing her. God is orchestrating every detail, moving pieces she cannot see, aligning events she does not know about, and positioning her for a future far greater than her past. A chosen woman walks alone because God is teaching her how to rely on Him in ways she never had to before. When the people she depended on are gone, she discovers God's sufficiency. When familiar support systems collapse, she discovers God's presence. When she has no one to confide in, she discovers God's listening ear. When every path seems blocked, she discovers God's guidance. When her strength fails, she discovers God's power. When fear rises, she discovers God's peace. And through these discoveries, she becomes unshakable. There is a silent strength inside a chosen woman that was forged through seasons where she had no one but God. She learned to survive without applause. She learned to grow without encouragement. She learned to endure without validation. She learned to walk without company. She learned to believe without evidence. She learned to trust without understanding. And because of that, she carries a resilience that cannot be destroyed. She carries a confidence that does not need external permission. She carries an authority that does not come from people, it comes from God. A chosen woman walks alone because her spiritual assignment requires her to see differently, think differently, move differently, and choose differently. She does not make decisions based on popular opinion. She makes decisions based on divine guidance. She does not chase trends. She chases purpose. She does not follow crowds. She follows conviction. She does not seek temporary pleasure. She seeks lasting impact. Her life is not defined by the world's expectations, but by God's preparation. God places a chosen woman on a path that does not look glamorous at first. It is narrow, quiet, hidden, and sometimes painful, but it is holy, it is protected, it is intentional, and it is leading her toward a spiritual destiny that she will one day look back on with awe, realizing that every lonely season was necessary. Every closed door was a blessing. Every loss was a lesson. Every delay was divine timing. A chosen woman walks alone because God is training her for leadership, not leadership built on titles or positions, but leadership rooted in spiritual wisdom, emotional strength, and divine direction. She is being equipped to influence others, not by noise, but by presence, not by force, but by grace, not by imitation, but by authenticity. She is being shaped into someone others will seek for strength, guidance, and clarity. But before she can lead others, she must first learn to be led by God alone. There are moments when a chosen woman sits in silence and wonders, why me? Why this path? Why this loneliness? The answer is simple but profound, because God saw something in her that others overlooked. Because God trusted her with a destiny that others could not handle. Because God planted in her a spiritual capacity that requires separation for activation. Because God knew she would rise even when everything around her tries to push her down. Because God built her with a resilience that can only be revealed in solitude. Because God is preparing her not for a common life, but for a divine assignment. You see, there is nothing ordinary about a chosen woman. Her presence carries a weight that others feel even if they cannot explain it. Her silence carries authority. Her words carry impact. Her energy shifts environments. Her spirit carries a divine imprint. She does not need attention to feel valuable. She does not need crowds to feel relevant. She does not need recognition to feel worthy. She has already been validated by the one who created her. A chosen woman walks alone because God is calling her to a higher standard. She cannot live carelessly. She cannot speak recklessly. She cannot associate aimlessly. She cannot abandon herself for the sake of fitting in. She cannot lower her values for temporary acceptance. She cannot dilute her spirituality just to be liked. She lives with intention. She lives with clarity. She lives with a divine consciousness that elevates her above trivial distractions. And because of this, her path becomes narrower, not as punishment, but as protection. Many people desire greatness, but few are willing to walk the lonely path that greatness requires. Many desire spiritual depth, but few are willing to endure the silence where God speaks the loudest. Many want influence, but few want refinement. Many want divine favor, but few want divine discipline. A chosen woman does not just desire these things, she embraces them. She understands that the cost of her calling is separation. She understands that the price of her purpose is solitude. She understands that destiny demands more from her than from others. And she does not resist it. She submits to it with a willing heart. A chosen woman walks alone because God is creating in her a spiritual independence that will make her unstoppable. She is learning to draw strength not from people but from God alone. She is learning to walk confidently even when she does not have a hand to hold. She is learning to hear God's voice even when every other voice falls silent. She is learning to rise even when no one is cheering. She is learning to endure even when no one understands. And through all of this, she is becoming a woman whose spirit cannot be broken. But here, this truth being chosen does not mean being lonely forever. A chosen woman walks alone only until God has completed His work in her. When the preparation is finished, when the refinement is complete, when her spirit is strong and her discernment matured, God will send the right people into her life. People who match her depth, her values, her purpose. People who do not drain her, but support her. People who do not misunderstand her, but appreciate her. People who do not fear her strength, but honor it. People who do not compete with her calling, but complement it. But until those people arrive, God keeps her alone to protect her from those who would mishandle her heart or misinterpret her worth. God guards a chosen woman fiercely. He does not allow her to be easily influenced. He does not allow her to be easily accessed. He does not allow her to be easily deceived. He places a spiritual boundary around her life that repels the wrong people and attracts the right ones. She may not always understand it, but she will always benefit from it. Her path may feel lonely, but it is never unsafe. Her journey may feel quiet, but it is never empty. Her road may feel narrow, but it is never without direction. God is with her in every step, in every moment, in every season. A chosen woman walks alone because her spirit cannot settle for the superficial. She craves depth. She craves authenticity. She craves sincerity. She craves truth. She craves the presence of God more than the presence of people. Her soul is drawn to spiritual things. Her heart is drawn to divine wisdom. Her mind is drawn to purpose. She is not satisfied with ordinary conversation, ordinary relationships, ordinary environments. She seeks what aligns with her calling, and anything that does not align falls away naturally, not by force, but by spiritual design. Sometimes her solitude is not chosen but imposed. Friends drift away, relationships break, invitations stop. The people she once relied on become distant, and she stands there wondering what she did wrong. But she did nothing wrong. She grew, she evolved, she elevated. And not everyone has the capacity to accompany her to the next level. God removes those who cannot walk where she is going. God disconnects her from those who would restrict her. God separates her from those who would sabotage her growth. It is mercy, not rejection. It is direction, not abandonment. A chosen woman walks alone because God is amplifying her intuition. He is sharpening her spiritual sensitivity so she can discern what others overlook. She begins to feel things before they happen. She begins to sense shifts in energy. She begins to recognize hidden intentions. She begins to detect deception before it reaches her. She begins to identify divine opportunities before they become visible. This level of clarity requires silence, stillness, and solitude. Her loneliness becomes revelation. Her quiet season becomes transformation. Her separation becomes elevation. Her solitary walk becomes the birthplace of her authority. And in time, something extraordinary happens. The woman who once questioned her loneliness begins to see its purpose. She begins to realize that her seasons of walking alone produce the wisdom she carries, the strength she embodies, and the peace she radiates. She begins to see that solitude gave her a connection with God that she would have never found in crowded rooms. She begins to understand that everything she thought was breaking her was actually building her into someone powerful. A chosen woman walks alone because God is preparing her to stand before doors she never imagined would open. He is preparing her to influence people she never imagined she would meet. He is preparing her to receive blessings she once thought were impossible. He is preparing her to carry responsibilities that require spiritual depth and emotional maturity. He is preparing her to be someone who transforms the world around her simply by walking in her divine identity. She walks alone so that one day she can walk with impact. She walks alone so that one day she can carry others. She walks alone so that one day her voice will carry authority. She walks alone so that one day her presence will shift atmospheres. She walks along so that one day her strength will inspire generations. This is why her path is narrow. This is why her journey is intense. This is why her heart is different. This is why her spirit feels things deeply. This is why she cannot tolerate the superficiality. This is why she cannot blend in. This is why she cannot lower her standards. This is why she cannot be ordinary. A chosen woman continues her journey with a quiet fire burning inside her, one that no one else can see, yet everyone can feel. This fire does not come from ambition. ego or worldly desire. It comes from the deep awareness that God is guiding her steps with a precision far beyond the human understanding. As she walks, she begins to sense that every shift in her life, every uncomfortable change, every sudden ending, and every unexpected beginning is part of a divine orchestration. She learns that God does not move randomly. He moves intentionally. Nothing in the life of a chosen woman is accidental. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is without purpose. And when she begins to understand this, her loneliness transforms into strength, her silence becomes revelation, and her solitude becomes her greatest spiritual training ground. A chosen woman walks alone because God is teaching her how to trust what she cannot yet see. She learns that faith is not built in crowded places, it is built in hidden places. It is built in the moments when she has nothing to rely on except the quiet assurance in her heart that God is still in control. It is built in the times when her plans fail, but God's plan stands firm. It is built when the door she prayed for closes, only for God to reveal that He was protecting her from something she could not see. In her alone seasons, her faith deepens, matures, and becomes unshakable. She becomes anchored not in circumstances, but in God alone. There are days when she feels the weight of her calling pressing against her chest, not as a burden, but as a reminder that she was made for something higher. There are days when she wakes up with a sense of urgency, a sense that God is preparing her for a moment she has not yet reached. And there are days when her spirit becomes sensitive in ways she cannot explain. She feels when something is off before it shows itself. She senses danger before it appears. She detects divine opportunity before it unfolds. This heightened spiritual awareness is not something she learned from the world. It is something God built within her when she walked alone. A chosen woman walks alone because she is learning the discipline of spiritual boundaries. Not everyone has the right to enter her life. Not everyone has the right to speak into her spirit. Not everyone has the right to influence her decisions. She learns to guard her heart, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. She learns to say no to energies that drain her. She learns to walk away from people who bring confusion to her soul. She learns to distance herself from those who do not honor her growth. She learns to protect her peace because she realizes her peace is the place where God whispers instruction into her life. When God teaches a woman to guard her peace, He is preparing her to carry something sacred. In her solitude, a chosen woman develops the courage to walk away from what no longer aligns with her spirit. She stops forcing connections. She stops apologizing for her standards. She stops shrinking herself to accommodate others. She stops tolerating disrespect disguised as affection. She stops giving second chances to those who repeatedly show they do not value her. She stops negotiating her worth, and in doing so, she becomes a force. She becomes a woman who understands that God's approval is worth more than human acceptance. A chosen woman walks alone because her destiny requires purification of her environment. God removes negativity so she can hear Him clearly. God removes distraction so she can move forward without hesitation. God removes disorder so she can walk in alignment. God removes what is harmful even when she believes it is helpful. God removes what is temporary to make space for what is eternal. And though these removals may break a heart, in the moment they are divine surgery, necessary, precise, and ultimately life-giving. There comes a moment when a chosen woman realizes that people were never meant to be her foundation. God was. When she loses people she thought she needed, and yet somehow she still stands, she discovers God's strength. When her plans collapse but she remains unbroken, she discovers God's protection. When she is left without answers but still moves forward, she discovers God's guidance. When she feels empty but still finds peace, she discovers God's presence. This discovery becomes the turning point of her life. She no longer fears being alone, for she realizes she was never alone. God was with her in every silent step. As she matures spiritually, she begins to understand the value of being misunderstood. A chosen woman is often misunderstood not because she is unclear, but because she is deep. Her thoughts carry weight. Her spirit carries insight. Her voice carries conviction. And those who do not have the capacity to understand her depth will naturally misinterpret her silence for arrogance, her standards for stubbornness, her discernment for judgment, her calling for attitude. But she learns to stop explaining herself. She learns to stop seeking recognition from those who are spiritually blind. She learns that being misunderstood is often a sign that she is walking in divine alignment rather than social expectation. A chosen woman walks alone because God is shaping her identity in a way that cannot be influenced by external voices. She no longer seeks validation from people because she has already been validated by God. She no longer worries about fitting in because she was never designed to blend with the masses. She no longer doubts her worth because she knows who created her. She no longer questions her purpose because God consistently confirms it through her intuition, her dreams, her inner conviction, and the quiet nudges she feels in her spirit. Her loneliness becomes a spiritual mirror. She begins to confront parts of herself she once ignored. She faces her fears. She acknowledges her wounds. She identifies her patterns. She cleanses her spirit from past disappointments. She lets go of identities forced on her by society. She heals from expectations that limited her. She unlearns beliefs that kept her small. In her solitude, she experiences inner breakthroughs that no one else is aware of. And God sees it all. God honors it all. God uses it all. A chosen woman walks alone because God is teaching her the discipline of patience. Patience with His timing, patience with herself, patience with the unfolding of her destiny. She learns that nothing divine happens rushed. She learns that what God is preparing her for requires maturity, clarity, and spiritual readiness. She learned that the blessings she desires require her to grow into the version of herself who can sustain them. She learned that quick success collapses, but divinely timed success endures. And as she grows in patience, she also grows in strength. Not loud strength, not aggressive strength, not external strength, spiritual strength. The kind of strength that radiates quietly. The kind of strength that cannot be broken by betrayal. The kind of strength that is not shaken by disappointment. The kind of strength that allows her to stand firm even when everything around her tries to pull her down. The kind of strength that makes her rise even after life tries to bury her. A chosen woman walks alone because she carries a rare spirit, not a spirit of fear, but a spirit of resilience, not a spirit of dependence, but a spirit of confidence, not a spirit of confusion, but a spirit of clarity. Her spirit is anchored in God, and anything anchored in God cannot be moved. She becomes unshakable. She becomes grounded. She becomes powerful in a quiet, graceful, dignified way that draws people toward her without her ever needing to seek attention. As her journey continues, she begins to see signs of what God has been preparing her for. New opportunities begin to open. New revelations begin to unfold. New wisdom begins to emerge. She becomes more intuitive, more focused, more discerning, more spiritually attuned. She started to recognize blessings disguised as obstacles and protection disguised as laws. She begins to understand that God was not delaying her, He was aligning her. And then something unexpected happens. Her solitude becomes sacred. She begins to cherish the moments when she can sit silently with her thoughts and feel God's presence surrounding her. She begins to value her own company. She begins to enjoy the peace that comes from being spiritually grounded. She begins to appreciate that walking alone does not mean walking in emptiness. It means walking with God in the forefront, guiding every step, every decision, every direction. A chosen woman walks alone until she becomes the kind of woman who cannot be shaken by temptation, easily manipulated by emotions, or misled by appearances. She becomes wise. She becomes aware. She becomes spiritually advanced. She becomes someone who can walk into any environment and remain unaffected by negativity because her inner world is protected by God Himself. There will come a moment when her journey shifts, when God decides the season of solitude has served its purpose, when He begins to place the right people around her, people who are spiritually aligned, emotionally healthy, purposeful, sincere, and capable of walking beside her without diminishing her light. These people will not be intimidated by her strength. They will honor it. They will not misunderstand her depth. They will appreciate it. They will not compete with her calling. They will support it. These people will fit not into her old life, but into the woman she became through God's refinement. But until that moment comes, she walks alone. Not aimlessly, not hopelessly, not painfully, but purposefully. She walks alone because this is the season where God builds her into someone the world cannot ignore. This is the season where God strips away everything that is not aligned with her future. This is the season where God evolves her identity. This is the season where God sharpens her discernment. This is the season where God strengthens her heart. This is the season where God purifies her spirit. This is the season where God prepares her for the magnitude of what is coming. And when the time comes, when she finally steps into the fullness of the destiny God designed for her, she will look back on her alone seasons not with bitterness, but with reverence. She will see how every tear watered her strength, how every quiet night sharpened her intuition, how every departure protected her path, how every silence amplified God's voice, how every lonely step elevated her spirit,